The 7 Canons of the Holy and Ecumenical Second Council interpreted. Canon I. The Holy Fathers assembled in Constantinople have decided not to set aside the faith of the 318 Fathers who met in Nicaea, Bithynia, but to let it remain sovereign, and that every heresy be anathematized. And especially and specifically that of the Eunomians, including that of the Eudoxians, and that of the Semi-Arians, including that of the Pneumatomics, and that of the Sabellians, and that of the Marcellians, and that of the Photinians, and that of the Apollinarians. V of the 2nd, cc. 1 and 5 of the 6th, c2 of Car. Interpretation. This first canon of the present council asserts that the 150 Holy Fathers who convened in Constantinople decided that the Orthodox faith, meaning the creed adopted by the 318 Fathers who had convened in Nicaea, Bithynia, should not be set aside, but, on the contrary, should remain solid and inviolable, and that every heresy should be anathematized. In particular, the heresy of the Eunomians, or of those called Eudoxians, the heresy of the Semi-Arians, 2 or of those known as Pneumatomic, i.e., spirit fighters, the heresy of the followers of Sabellius, the heresy of the adherents of Marcellus, 4 the heresy of the pupils of Photinus, and the heresy of those of Apollinaris. 6. Concord. In agreement with the present Canon C. I of the 6th also decrees and ordains the faith to be exempt from innovations as it has been handed down and delivered to posterity by the Holy Fathers in Nicaea and by the 150 Fathers of this Council. Canon V of the present Council also admits the Westerners who confess one divinity of the Trinity. Likewise c. 2 of Carthage ordains that the faith of the Church in the Holy Trinity shall remain fiducial, in accordance with the form prescribed by the Council held in Nicaea, as c. I thereof says. Dogmas of faith are mentioned also by cc. cxx, cxi, 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 cxiv, cxxv, cxv, and cxvi of Carthage. The first innovation, filioque, from the educational system of Amicrates. The first innovation, or heresy, was the addition to the 8th article of the symbol of faith, or creed, of the Latin words filioque, meaning and from the Son, and signifying that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and from the Son. Contrary to the words of our Lord, who said, "But when the Comforter cometh, whom I will send unto you from the Father, the Spirit of truth, who proceedeth from the Father, he shall bear witness of me." John 15:26. The addition and from the Son bisects the hypostasis of the Holy Spirit, cutting it in two, so to speak, and makes the Son a Father, an allegation which is nothing short of blasphemous and heretical. The Second Ecumenical Synod, which supplemented the creed of the first, defined that no one has the right to add anything to or to subtract anything from the symbol of faith, or creed, as established by it. The minutes of both these synods were attested and signed by the representatives of the popes then holding office. The addition of filioque is a blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, and the source of it is the devil, also called the dragon, and, according to the words of the Lord, it will be forgiven neither in this world nor in the world to come. Proceedeth signifies the manner of generation, and not the act of sending nor the fact of being sent. The Son is begotten only by the Father, but the Spirit, too, proceedeth only from the Father, or, as is more to the point and closer to the meaning of the Greek word in question, is yielded only by the Father, two branches from the same root. Brothers, as it were, effects of the causeless, initial, and absolute cause, timeless, eternal, inalterable, everlasting, because their being is derived hypostatically from the timeless, eternal, inalterable, and everlasting Father. Being simultaneously, and not alternatingly, at the same time the Father, at the same time the Son, and together and at the same time the Spirit, mind, speech, and spiritor, nous, logos, and pneuma, the first mind, Father, begets, generates, the speech or word, logos, and yields, prolates, the Spirit to the Logos and Son, and through him to the Church. That is why the Lord said, "Whom the Father will send in my name." Jesus, as Victor, legally acquired the right to send the Spirit to the Church, and the Father send the Spirit in his name. The representative, therefore, of the militant Church of Christ on the earth is the Comforter, or Paraclete, a perfect God from the perfect God and Father, immortal and infallible. St. Peter and the other apostles and holy fathers and teachers of the Church are faithful servants of the Holy Spirit, though sinful and mortal. Yet the decisions of the many when convened and gathered together in one and the same place in Holy Spirit possess legal validity in the Church, but not the decision of each singly, one by one. All pastors or teachers who oppose or defy the canons of the apostles and ecumenical synods or the text of the Holy Scriptures, err and build on sand. The papal innovations and councils are invalid and illegal, because they oppose and defy the decisions of the apostles and ecumenical synods and the text of the Holy Scriptures. Let God be true, and every man a liar, Romans 3:4. The innovations, therefore, and decisions of the Pope, claiming primacy, must be combated until they disappear from the province of the Church. Let us hope that this may be speedily consummated. Respecting the triune character of the deity and the relations between the three persons of the Trinity, Christian theology teaches that God is essentially one and that he is the cause and creator of all things, but that he exists in three co-eternal persons, of whom the first person is the Father Mind unbegotten, the second person is the Son Logos eternally begotten of the Father Mind, and the third person is the Holy Spirit Thought eternally yielded by only the Father Mind and revealed and sent in time to the world through the Son. Both the Son Logos and the Spirit Thought, however, are due to one and the same cause and eternal principle, the Father Mind, and they are coessential with the principle from which the Son Logos is begotten and the Spirit Thought is yielded, or prelated, i.e., is caused and given forth, eternally. The terms begat and yield signify the manner of production and the relation of the Son Logos and of the Spirit Thought to the Father Mind, by whom the one is begotten and the other yielded. But how are the terms begotten and yielded to be differentiated logically? The first being, the beginningless and unbegotten mind, who, cognizing himself through himself eternally, produces, in cognizing himself, the idea of himself, which, of course, is like him and is his exact image and similitude, as well as the first truth and presentation of him, being, in fact, an idea of the first mind, or of the first being, equal to God, substantial, hypostatic, personal, possessing beinghood and entity. For if it were otherwise, it would consequently be merely an imaginary, fantastic idea and imperfect, but a perfect mind cognizing himself imperfectly would not be a perfect mind at all. It follows, then, that the perfect mind deduces out of himself a single perfect idea of himself, and thus begets, or generates, one who is coessential with him, that is to say, one of the same essence. And because the idea of the perfect mind perfectly presents and pictures the first mind, it is consequently also the first truth, inasmuch as truth is a true and exact picture and presentation of whatever is. The manner in which the idea is produced by the mind is called begetting, or generation, for it is similar to the begetting of a son by a father. But the relation of the Spirit Thought to the mind is different from that of the Son Logos being begotten by the Father Mind. The Spirit, as the cognitive power of the mind as thought, that is to say is yielded, prolated, by the mind and out of the mind as by and out of an eternal source, much in the same way as mother's milk is yielded by and out of the breasts. As water flows from a spring, as fruit is yielded by a tree, or wool by a sheep. It reposes in the Son Logos as it is yielded by the Father Mind. The expression and production of the Spirit Thought by and out of the Father Mind is called yield, or procession, because it is similar to the yielding of milk by a mother, the flowing of water from a spring, the growth of wool from a sheep, the production of fruit by a tree, and the emission and radiation of light by the sun. Thus the Spirit Thought is yielded by and proceeds from the Father Mind, a perfect being from a perfect being, equal to and coessential with the Father Mind, a perfect personality proceeding only from that Father Mind but reposing, or resting, in the Son Logos, and being emitted and sent forth through the Son Logos to those cognitive essences who are capable of receiving the latter. In fine, procession denotes the perpetual, the eternal emanation, emission, effusion, production, while transmission denotes its being sent and passed on by and through the Son Logos. The two words in italic type are not, of course, exact translations of the corresponding terms used in the original Greek, ekporousis and pompe respectively, to which there are no equivalents in the English language nor in the Latin. That is why we have gone to such lengths in explaining just what they mean. Although the verbs yield and grant approach the true meaning of the Greek terms more closely than do the words procession and transmission, the use of them in this connection is attended with the inconvenience due to the lack of corresponding nouns distinguishable from the verbs and capable of being used in the same sense. But the Roman Catholics confuse the transmission in time of the Spirit through the Son with the eternal procession thereof from the Father Mind alone, wrongly assuming and holding that the Spirit's procession is due to two factors, the Father Mind and the Son Logos, which is absurd, for it implies an imperfection in both the producing mind and the proceeding spirit. If the mind does not yield a perfect spirit, then the mind is by consequence imperfect, and the spirit, or thought, imperfect as well. But a mind thinking imperfectly, and having an imperfect thought, is not a perfect mind. Consequently it is plain that the Spirit Thought proceeds perfect out of the perfect mind alone, though it reposes in the Son Logos, through whom it is also sent forth to the world, being granted in time for enlightenment and knowledge. In God, therefore, there are three eternal and perfect beings, to wit, 1, the Father Mind, 2, the Son Logos, his idea, and 3, the Spirit, his thought. Logos of God, Spirit of God, and God, the name of the essence of a perfect being, Father, Logos, and Spirit the names of the three co-eternal hypostases, or persons, of the one co-essential deity. God the Father, or Mind, God the Son and Logos, or Idea, God the Spirit, or Thought one triune God. The distinction between the three hypostases may be seen from the fact that the Father Mind is an uncaused cause, whereas the Son Logos and the Spirit Thought are causates co-eternal with the cause, and therefore are products. The Son Logos being begotten and the Spirit Thought being yielded by him out of whom it proceedeth. Such is the concept of the one and triune God according to the Orthodox dogma and the Orthodox theology, and such is the logical explanation of the fact that the Son Logos is begotten, and of the fact that the Spirit thought is yielded, and not that it merely proceeds of itself, and also of the fact that the Spirit is transmitted and sent through the Son Logos. Such, indeed, is the relation by which the one and only true God, a unity and a trinity, can be conceived and understood, just as he is lauded and glorified by our fathers, and just as all Orthodox Christians believe and confess him through the creed, or symbol of faith. This relation becomes more clearly discernible by studying the following illustration. When a man's soul clearly and distinctly knows itself and the things round and without, when it possesses knowledge of self and of God, it is called a mind. A soul that is naturally mindful and intelligent begets speech, or discourse presentative of its own ideas and judgments. Those who hear the discourse imbibe the thoughts of the soul talking, without removing them either from the discourse or from the soul's mind. These thoughts are called spirit. Now, just as the soul's mind naturally begets discourse and expresses, or emits, through its discourse thought and spirit to thousands of other souls, so the first and perfect mind naturally begets the first and perfect logos, discourse or speech. Respecting which see the detailed account in Apostolic, a New Philosophy and the Philosophical Sciences, Book V, Philosophy. Published in 1940 in English by Putnam's Sons of New York City, and at the same time yields the first and perfect spirit, which is effused and transmitted from the logos and by the logos to other minds for their enlightenment and knowledge. And just as the mind, the discourse, and the spirit of the soul are distinct yet united, naturally correlated and inseparable as regards the relation of the Son to the Father, of the picture to the original, and of flowing water to the source from which it springs, so do the same unity and distinctness and reference and relation exist as between God the mind, God the logos, discourse, and God the Spirit, who for this reason is lauded and glorified as one and triune, a unit in a trinity and a trinity in a unit, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the coessential, homoousian, and inseparable Trinity. We recommend to Roman Catholics, Protestants, and Jews the above-mentioned New Philosophy and Philosophical Sciences and the Divine and Sacred Catechism by the Teacher of Christianity, A. Macracus, as the clue to salvation from the moral labyrinth into which they have fallen as a result of their misconception of the Holy Trinity, and by remaining in which they are bound to become a prey to the figurative Minotaurus, devil. By studying the work they will come to see the scientific truth about the essence and nature of the Holy Trinity, of a true God, and of the relation subsisting between the three persons as a truth that can be proved. In consequence they will be converted to the true faith of orthodoxy for the sake of their own personal salvation, for only the truth can save, by leading its followers to the true end of their predestination. Whereas error always leads its followers to an erroneous end, departing widely from their predestination and life goal. Canon 2. Bishops must not leave their own diocese and go over to churches beyond its boundaries, but, on the contrary, in accordance with the canons, let the Bishop of Alexandria administer the affairs of Egypt only. Let the bishops of the East govern the Eastern Church only, the priorities granted to the Church of the Antiochians and the Nicene canons being kept inviolate. And let the bishops of the Asian diocese, or administrative domain, administer only the affairs of the Asian Church, and let those of the Pontic diocese look after the affairs of the Diocese of Pontus only. And let those of the Thracian diocese manage the affairs of the Thracian diocese only. Let bishops not go beyond their own province to carry out an ordination or any other ecclesiastical services unless, officially, summoned thither. When the canon prescribed in regard to dioceses, or administrative provinces, is duly kept, it is evident that the synod of each province will confine itself to the affairs of that particular province, in accordance with the regulations decreed in Nicaea. But the churches of God that are situated in territories belonging to barbarian nations must be administered in accordance with the customary practice of the Fathers. App. CC. 34, 35, CC. Vi. 7 of the 1st, C8 of the 3rd, C28 of the 4th, CC. 20, 30, 39 of the 6th, C9 of Antioch, CC. 3, 11, and 12 of Sardica. Interpretation. Since, as is attested by Socrates, Book 5, ch. 8, officiation beyond the boundaries of one's own diocese was formerly a matter of indifference on account of persecutions, and, as Theodore says, blessed Eusebius of Samosata did it as a matter of extraordinary zeal. On this account, when peace reappeared in the Church as a whole, the present canon was adopted and promulgated. It relates neither to autocephalous metropolitans alone, as Balsamon interpreted it, nor to patriarchs alone, but to both these classes of dignitaries alike, according to Dositheus, p. 233, of those who have served as patriarchs, in order that each of them may serve his own province and diocese, and not interfere in one that is alien, and not confound the rights of the churches, but, on the contrary, in accordance with the canons, cc. Vian 7, that is to say of the first, and much more in accordance with App. cc. 34 and 35. That the Bishop of Alexandria may manage only the parishes in Egypt, The council expressly mentioned the Bishop of Alexandria because the Bishop of Alexandria with his party cooperated to have Maximus the Cynic ordained in Constantinople, while, on the other hand, Great Saint Gregory was ousted from office in spite of its being his diocese and parish. The Metropolitans of the East are to attend to the affairs of the East, with the proviso that the prerogatives of the Bishop of Antioch be duly respected, in accordance with the Canon, SC. Vi. of the Nicene Council, and the Metropolitans of the Asian, Pontic and Thracian domains are to manage only the provinces belonging to them. These dignitaries, according to c. 28 of the 4th, have to be ordained after the Bishop of Constantinople. It commands, in addition, that both patriarchs and metropolitans alike refrain from interloping beyond their own dioceses and provinces with the object of ordaining others or performing other ecclesiastical services in the parishes of others, without being invited to do so, and that the synod of each particular province shall manage the ecclesiastical matters of each province of the metropolitans, whether they be elections, or ordinations, or penances, or absolutions, or any other such matters. Likewise, as regarding the affairs of each diocese of the patriarchs, the diocesan synod shall govern such matters of the diocese in question, as the Nicene Council has decreed. C. Vi. For the same thing is involved in the decree of the Nicene Council that no bishop shall be ordained without the consent of the metropolitan, and in which the present council says to the effect that the synod of each province, of the metropolitan, that is to say, shall govern the affairs of each province, respectively. As for the churches of God that are situated in the midst of barbarian nations, where there either were not enough bishops to make up a synod, or it was necessary for some scholarly bishop to go there in order to bolster up the Christians in their faith, these churches, I say, ought to be managed in accordance with the prevailing custom of the fathers. To be more explicit, neighboring and abler bishops ought to go to them, in order to supply what is missing for a local synod, which, though contrary to canons, yet as a matter of necessity was allowed by the council. Read App. cc. 34 and 35, and c. I of the 6th. Canon 3. Let the Bishop of Constantinople, however, have the priorities of honor after the Bishop of Rome, because of its being New Rome. Interpretation. The preceding canon dealt with patriarchs as a group, and especially with those of Alexandria and of Antioch, whereas the present canon deals with the Patriarch of Constantinople specially, and says that he is to share the prerogatives of honor after the Pope and Patriarch of Rome, since Constantinople itself is also called New Rome. The preposition after here does not denote being later in point of time, as some say in company with Aristinus, but neither does it denote any abasement and diminution, as Zonaras incorrectly interprets it. Because, in view of the fact that the Bishop of Alexandria is after the Bishop of Constantinople, and the Bishop of Antioch is after the Bishop of Alexandria, and the Bishop of Jerusalem is after the Bishop of Antioch, according to c. 36 of the 6th EC, there would result 4 removes of honor, and consequently 5 different degrees of honor, one higher than the other, which is contrary to all the Catholic Church, and acceptable only to the Latins and the Latin-minded, but, on the contrary, it denotes equality of honor, and an order of disposition according to which one is first and another second. The fact that it denotes equality of honor is to be seen in the fact that the Fathers assembled in Chalcedon, in their c. 28, assert that these 150 bishops gave equal priorities to the Bishop of Old Rome and to the Bishop of New Rome, and in the fact that the bishops who convened in the Trullis, i.e., the First Trullan Council, herein designated the Sixth Ecumenical, in their c. 36, say for the Bishop of Constantinople to enjoy equal priorities with the Bishop of Rome. That it refers to order of disposition is to be seen in the fact that both the former and the latter in the same canons call the Bishop of Constantinople second after the Bishop of Rome, not the second in point of honor, but the second in order of honor. For in the very nature of things it is impossible for there to be any two equal beings called first and second with respect to one another, without any order. That is why Justinian, in Novel 130 to be found in Book V of the Basilica, Title 3, calls the Bishop of Rome first, and the Bishop of Constantinople second, coming in order after the one of Rome. Note that inasmuch as Zonaras, however, in interpreting the canon, prefixed this decree of Justinian, it is evident that as for the diminution and abasement which he ascribed above to the Bishop of Constantinople with respect to the one of Rome, was ascribed only with reference to the order of honor, and not with reference to the honor in general. According to which the one precedes and the other follows both in the matter of signatures and in the matter of seats as well as in the matter of mentioning their names. Some, it is true, assert that the present canon grants only an honor to the Bishop of Constantinople, but that later urgent need gave him also the authority to ordain the metropolitans in Asia and Pontus and Thrace. But the council held in Chalcedon in its letter to Leo says that he held such authority to ordain them by virtue of an ancient custom, but its c. 28, i.e., of the 4th EC. C. merely confirmed this. Read also c. 28 of the 4th. Canon 4. As concerning Maximus the Cynic, and the disturbance caused by him in Constantinople, it is hereby decreed that Maximus neither became nor is a bishop, and that neither are those ordained by him entitled to hold any clerical rank whatsoever. Let everything connected with him or done by him be annulled. Interpretation. The present canon decrees that this Maximus is to be regarded as never having been a bishop at all nor as being one, and any persons ordained by him to any rank whatever are to be regarded as never having been ordained at all. Because all has been annulled, including the ordination conferred upon him by the Egyptians in violation of parish and contrary to canons, as well as ordinations he conferred upon others. Canon V. As concerning the tome of the Westerners, we have accepted also those in Antioch who confess a single divinity of Father and of Son and of Holy Spirit. C. I of the second, C. I of the sixth, cc. 1, 2 of Car. Interpretation. This canon is a special and particular one. For it says that, just as the fathers of this council accepted the tome of the Westerners, that is to say, the definition confirming the Holy Creed of the Nicene Fathers and anathematizing all those who hold beliefs contrary thereto, which definition the Western Fathers assembled at Sardica adopted and promulgated, so and in like manner they accepted also the definition of the faith set forth by those assembled at Antioch. One who confess one divinity of Father, and of Son, and of Holy Spirit, in the same manner, that is to say, as the Fathers who assembled in Nicaea. Canon Vi. Because many men, in a spirit of enmity and for purposes of slander being desirous to confound and subvert ecclesiastical discipline, connive to fabricate certain charges against orthodox bishops managing the churches, in an attempt designing nothing else but to sully the reputation of the priests and to raise disturbances among peoples who are at peace. On this account it has pleased the Holy Council of the bishops who have convened in Constantinople to decree that informers are not to be admitted without examination. Nor are all men to be allowed to bring accusations against those managing the churches, nor yet are all to be excluded. But if anyone lay a personal grievance, that is, a private complaint, against a bishop, on the ground that he has been a victim of the bishop's greed or other unjust treatment, in the case of such accusations neither the personality nor the religion of the accuser is to be inquired into. For then the conscience of the bishop must be clear in every respect, and the man who claims to have been wronged should receive justice whatever be his religion. But if the indictment brought against the bishop be of an ecclesiastical nature, then the personality of the informers must be considered, in order, first of all, not to allow heretics to make charges against orthodox bishops in regard to ecclesiastical matters. We call heretics those who have of old been proscribed from the church, and those who have thereafter been anathematized by us, and in addition to these those who, though pretending to confess the sound faith, have schismatically separated and have gathered congregations in opposition to our canonical bishops. Further, as regarding those who have previously been condemned by the Church on certain charges and have been ousted therefrom or excluded from communion, whether they belong to the clergy or to the ranks of laymen, neither shall these persons be allowed to accuse a bishop until they have first cleared themselves of their own indictment. Likewise as regarding those who are themselves being accused from before, they are not to be permitted to accuse a bishop, or other clergyman, until they have first proved themselves innocent of the charges placed against them. If, however, certain persons are neither heretics nor excluded from communion, nor condemned, nor previously charged with any offenses, should declare that they have an accusation of an ecclesiastical nature against a bishop, the Holy Council bids these persons to lodge their accusations before all the bishops of the province and before them to prove the charges against the bishop involved in the case. But if it so happen that the provincial bishops are unable to or incompetent to decide the case against the bishop and make the correction due, then they are to go to a greater synod of the bishops of this diocese summoned to try this case. And they are not to lodge the accusation until they themselves have in writing agreed to incur the same penalty if in the course of the trial it be proved that they have been slandering the accused bishop. But if anyone, scorning what has been decreed in the foregoing statements, should dare either to annoy the emperor's ears or to trouble courts of secular authorities or an ecumenical council to the affrontment of all the bishops of the diocese, let no such person be allowed to present any information whatever, because of his having thus roundly insulted the canons and ecclesiastical discipline. Interpretation. What the present canon says may be stated as follows. Since many men wishing to confound the discipline and good order of the Church inimically slander orthodox bishops, without accomplishing any other result than that of blackening the reputations of those unholy orders and disturbing the laity. On this account it has pleased this Holy Council to decree that neither all accusers of bishops be admitted nor again that all be excluded or refused admission. But if the charges are personal ones involving only financial loss, or, more specifically speaking, if anyone accuse a bishop by complaining that he has treated him unjustly or greedily, by depriving him perhaps of some real or personal property, in such cases the person of the accuser must not be examined into, nor his religion, but, on the contrary, no matter what may be his religious views, he must have justice done to him in any circumstances. But if his accusations are of a criminal nature, such, that is to say, as might lower his ecclesiastical standing, as, for instance, sacrilege, the performance of sacred rites outside the confines of the parish, and the like, Then and in that case the accusers ought to be examined, in the first place as to whether they are heretics, mistaken in doctrine, including both those who were anathematized by the Church long ago and those who have but now recently been anathematized by us. Secondly, as to whether they are schismatics or not, or, more specifically speaking, whether or not they have separated from the Church on account of any curable habits, according to c. I of Basil the Great, and contrary to the Canons, or, in other words, the Catholic bishops who have been ordained in the orthodox manner and in accordance with the Canons, while they themselves are congregating apart by themselves. Thirdly, whether they are entirely excommunicated from the Church for some misdeeds of theirs, or have been temporarily excommunicated from the clergyman or the layman. As for those, however, who have already been accused by others, they are not to be permitted to accuse a bishop or other clergyman until they prove themselves innocent of the crimes imputed to them. In case, however, those bringing these ecclesiastical and criminal accusations against a bishop happen to be free from all the above enumerated defects, the Holy Council commands that these persons first present their indictments of the accused bishop before the synod of all the bishops of that particular province. But if the synod of the province cannot dispose of such a case of crimes, then the accusers may carry the matter up to the greater synod of the bishops of the diocese, and have the case terminate there. Because of the fact that in Book LX of the Basilica, Title 26, ch. 6, it is written that whosoever turns out to be a traitor and liar in the accusations which he makes, when it comes to the matter of punishment for this crime, shall receive the punishment which the accused one would have received if he had been found guilty. The present canon pursuant to the civil law adds that provision that the accuser is not to commence a recital of his allegations unless he first gives a written promise to accept the same sentence and punishment as a rightly and truly and justly accused bishop would have to undergo, if it be proved that he accused him unjustly and falsely. Whoever scorns these regulations and affronts all the bishops of the diocese, and should dare to appeal his case to the emperor, or to civil courts of secular authorities, or to appeal to an ecumenical council, too shall be completely stopped from lodging an information, seeing that he has insulted the sacred canons and has violated ecclesiastical discipline. Concord. In much the same manner c. 9 of the 4th decrees that when clergymen are at variance with one another and quarreling, they are liable to canonical penances in case they leave their bishop and resort to civil courts. Canon 14 of Carthage, on the other hand, says that any bishop or presbyter or deacon or clergyman shall forfeit his position in case he leaves an ecclesiastical court and goes to a civil court. But, besides this, c. 12 of Antioch expressly decrees that if a presbyter or deacon deposed by his own bishop, or if a bishop deposed by a synod or council, does not resort to a greater synod or council of bishops, but, instead of doing so, annoys the emperor, he shall no longer have any right to submit an apology, i.e., enter a plea in his own defense, or any hope of restoration, sc. to his former ecclesiastical status. Canon 36 of Carthage excludes from communion clergymen and bishops that appeal their case to paramatic, a Greek word with a signification akin to crossing or fording, or what are more properly designated hyperhorial, a Greek word meaning about the same thing as the word extralimitary derived from the Latin, with reference to passing or going beyond the boundaries of a territory, tribunals, and not to the superiors of their own provinces. This very thing is what is decreed by c. 6 of the same council. Note, however, that lower ecclesiastical judges are not penalized by the higher ones to whom the decision of a case is appealed, unless they be proved to have judged wrongly and unjustly either by way of favoring someone or because of enmity. See also App. C 74 and c. 9 of the 4th. Canon 7. As for those heretics who betake themselves to orthodoxy, and to the lot of the saved, we accept them in accordance with the subjoined sequence and custom, viz. Arians, and Macedonians, and Sebastians, and Novatians, those calling themselves Cathari, or Puritans, and those calling themselves Aristeri. Note of translator. This designation may be based upon the Greek word aristos, meaning best, though as a word it signifies left hand, and the quartodecimans, quasi-fourteentists, to use the English language in this connection, otherwise known as tetradites, though in English this term is applied to an entirely different group of heretics, and Apollinarians we accept when they offer libelli, i.e., recantations in writing, and anathematize every heresy that does not hold the same beliefs as the Catholic and Apostolic Church of God, and are sealed first with holy myron, more usually called chrism. In English, on their forehead and their eyes, and nose, and mouth, and ears, and in sealing them we say, a seal of a free gift of Holy Spirit. As for Eunomians, however, who are baptized with a single immersion, and Montanists, who are here called Phrygians, and the Sabellians, who teach that Father and Son are the same person, and who do some other bad things, and those belonging to any other heresies, for there are many heretics here, especially such as come from the country of the Galatians, all of them that want to adhere to orthodoxy we are willing to accept as Greeks. Accordingly, on the first day we make, Note of translator. The meaning of this word here is more exactly rendered treat as them Christians, on the second day, catechumens, then, on the third day, we exorcise them with the act of blowing thrice into their face and into their ears, and thus do we catechize them. And we make them tarry a while in the church and listen to the scriptures, and then we baptize them. App. CC. 46, 47, 68, CC. 8, 19 of the first, C 95 of the sixth, CC. 7, 8 of Laod, C 66 of Karth. CC. IV. 47 of Basil. Interpretation. The present canon specifies in what way we ought to receive those coming from heresies and joining the Orthodox faith and a portion of the saved. It says that, as for Arians and Macedonians, of whom we have spoken in Canon I of the present council, and Sebastians and Quartodecimans, otherwise known as Tetradites, too, and Apollinarians, we will accept them after they give us libelli, or issue a written document. Libellius is a Latin word, interpreted, according to Zonaras, as meaning publication or issue, anathematizing both their own heresy as well as every other heresy that does not believe as the Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church of God believes, just as the first TC. C demanded this stipulation in writing from Novatians, particularly in its C. 8, whose forehead, eyes, nose, mouth, and ears we first seal with holy myron, saying in each seal, a seal of a free gift of Holy Spirit. And we will accept thus all these converts without rebaptizing them, since, according to Zonaras, in respect of holy baptism they no wise differ from us, and baptize themselves likewise as do the Orthodox. But as for Arians and Macedonians, who are manifestly heretics, the canon accepted them without rebaptism economically. Note of translator. This term, and the corresponding noun economy and verb economize, in the peculiar idiom of the Orthodox Church can hardly be said to be translatable into genuine English. As a first approximation they may be taken as signifying something like managing a disagreeable set of circumstances with tact and shrewdness, instead of insisting upon precision. The primary reason being the vast multitude of such heretics then prevalent, and a second reason being that they used to baptize themselves in the same way as we do. As regards Eunomians, on the other hand, who practiced baptism with a single immersion, and the Montanists, who there in Constantinople were known as Phrygians, and the Sabellians, who used to say that the Father and the Son were one and the same person, and who used to do other terrible things, and all the other heresies of heretics, a great many of whom are to be found there, and especially those who came from the country of the Galatians. As for all these persons, I say, we accept them as Greeks, or, in other words, as persons totally unbaptized, for these persons either have not been baptized at all or, though baptized, have not been baptized aright and in a strictly orthodox manner, wherefore they are regarded as not having been baptized at all. Accordingly, on the first day of their reception, we make them Christians, that is to say, in other words, we make them accept all the dogmas of Christians, while they are standing outside the narthex of the church, the priest meantime laying his hand upon them, in accordance with c. 39 of the local synod or regional council held in Alibria, a country in Spain. On the second day we make them catechumens, or, in other words, we place them in a class called catechumens. On the third day we read to them the usual exorcisms, at the same time blowing 3 times into their face and into their ears. And thus we catechize them in regard to particular aspects of the faith, and make them stay in church a long time and listen to the divine scriptures, and then we baptize them. Concord. Canon 7 of Laodicea II would have Novatians and Quartodecimans returning to orthodoxy treated economically in exactly the same way as they are in this canon, that is to say, with anathematization of their heresy, and with the seal of the myron. But Phrygians returning are required by c. 8 of the same c. to be baptized. But it must be said also that c. 95 of the 6th is nothing else than a repetition of the present canon, except that it goes on to say that Manichees, and Valentinians, and Marcionists must be baptized when they turn to orthodoxy, but Eutychians, and Dioscorites, and Severians may be accepted after anathematizing their own heresies, as may also the Novatians, that is to say, and the rest. Canon 19 of the first TC. C. wants all Paulinists to get baptized in any case without fail, as is also witnessed by c. 95 of the 6th. Canon 47 of Basil says Phroncritites, and Sacaphori, and Apotactites, concerning whom cc. 95 of the 6th, to get baptized when they become converted. Canon V of the same saint says for us to accept those heretics who repent at the end of their life, though not to do so indiscriminately, but only after trying them out. Read also App. cc. 46 and 47.